You don't pull reality toward you like a magnet drags iron filings. You become compatible with it, the way a tuning fork hums when a piano key is pressed across the room. Everything that exists expresses itself as a pattern in time, a wave with a tempo, a shape, and a phase. Matter is music condensed, situations are chords, and your inner state is an instrument that either clashes with the score or slips into perfect harmony. When people say, like attracts like, they describe an echo of a deeper mechanism, resonance. In resonance, nothing is forced, systems start sharing energy because their rhythms match. The moment your thoughts, feelings, breath, and actions settle into a coherent pattern, you stop chasing outcomes and start coupling with them. What once looked far away begins to show up as if it were always nearby, because on the level where timing is everything, you finally arrived on time. Think about how a crowded room works. One anxious person speaks too fast, interrupts, and scans all faces for threat. Nearby, someone grounded and steady listens fully, answers slowly, and smiles with their eyes. Each carries a different waveform into the space, and every conversation will either be pulled into turbulence or lulled into clarity. Most people don't realize that their nervous system is broadcasting without words. Breath rate, micro-expressions, posture, and subtle pauses are signals others can feel. Two strangers sit together on a train, neither speaks. 5 minutes later both adjust their breathing to the same tempo without noticing. This is not magic, it's the physics of coupled oscillators wearing a human costume. When your inner signal is jagged, you entrain to noise. When it's clean, you entrain to order. Resonance shows up in small mechanical miracles. Marching soldiers can collapse a bridge if their footsteps lock to the bridge's natural frequency. A child on a swing needs the right push timing, not force, to soar higher. A singer can shatter glass not by volume but by matching its tone so precisely that the glass accepts the energy and can't hold its shape. Life behaves similarly. Opportunities fracture under brute effort, yet open under precise alignment. That job interview where you were overprepared and desperate felt heavy, the one where you were curious and present flowed. The difference wasn't the suit or the resume, it was phase. You were either fighting the current or letting it carry you. Inside your body, the same laws apply. Your brain doesn't fire random sparks, it organizes into waves. Your heart doesn't beat like a metronome under stress, it becomes erratic, then regains coherence when you breathe slowly and send gratitude through your chest like a warm current. The gut signals, the vagus nerve listens, the prefrontal cortex tunes decisions by the feel of the whole system. When these rhythms converge, you experience a sensation people call alignment. It's not mystical, it's a network settling into a low-friction mode that wastes little energy. In that mode, attention sharpens, time expands, and the next step reveals itself without strain. You resonate with clarity, and clarity rearranges what you notice. Resonance rewrites your relationship with memory and expectation. A memory is not just an image, it's a pattern of activation with a mood attached. Rehearse a fearful memory often enough and you teach your body to anticipate the same color of future. You begin to scan for matches and ignore contradictions. This is selective perception at work, but it's also practical resonance. You become exquisitely sensitive to cues that vibrate like your inner story. The inverse is available. Rehearse a future you haven't lived yet by practicing its posture, breath, vocabulary, and micro-choices now. Let your mornings express the rhythm of the life you say you want. The brain records those repetitions, the body metabolizes them into a baseline, and the world responds because you respond to the world differently. You meet the scene with the right timing, so doors that were always there open because your hand reaches the handle instead of the wall. People often ask how to raise their frequency, as if we could twist a dial and jump instantly to bliss. The dial is real, but it's built from simple levers: attention, respiration, language, and behavior. Attention is the spotlight that warms whatever it rests on, respiration sets tempo, language frames possibility, behavior proves what you truly believe. Choose a micro-practice and let it ripple. Breathe in for 5 counts and out for 5, feel your chest soften, name 3 details in your environment you hadn't noticed, speak 1 sentence that is both true and generous, take 1 action that aligns with the promise you've made to yourself. Keep the pattern for a week and your baseline moves. Keep it for a month and people will say you've changed. Keep it for a year and your life won't fit the old story. Consider relationships. 2 people bring their daily waveforms into a shared field. If one person lives in a loop of urgency, the partnership begins to oscillate at that speed. Arguments become predictable crescendos, the same trigger, the same defensive phrase, the same exit line. But change one person's timing, slower breath, longer pause before replying, a genuine attempt to feel the other's interior, and the duet must retune. It can't not. Sometimes the other person refuses and the coupling breaks, that is still resonance, dissonant systems separating so each can find a better match. Often, though, the new steadiness invites the other to soften. A new pattern emerges, fewer spikes, more listening, solutions that neither could invent alone. The law of attraction language dissolves here, what remains is the craft of sculpting the field between you until it supports both of you. Resonance reshapes your work, too. Creativity isn't a lightning strike, it's a phase transition, ingredients simmering until a new structure appears. If your day is chopped into frantic fragments, the pot never reaches temperature. Protect a block of time, protect your body's rhythm during it, and ideas begin to cohere. Move your eyes from screen to far horizon every 20 minutes to relax the visual system. Stand and sway for 30 seconds to tell your vestibular system you're safe. Return to the page with a question simple enough to be answered in 1 paragraph. The paragraph arrives, then another, and by afternoon an architecture stands where blankness once was. This isn't productivity porn, it's resonance as method. You don't wrestle the work, you attune to the conditions under which it emerges. The skeptic asks, isn't this just confirmation bias? Partly. The mind always edits reality. But resonance goes further. The way you move through the world alters how people move around you. Your steadiness changes their micro-choices, your curiosity changes what they reveal, your generosity upgrades the information you receive. Over time, these tiny shifts compound into new networks, new invitations, new thresholds. You didn't summon them by wish, you met them with timing that made collaboration easy. What looks like luck is often a long-cultivated wave finally finding its choir. There is a practical ritual for days when you feel out of tune. Sit, feet on the floor. Inhale slowly through the nose, count to 5, exhale to 5, for 3 minutes. Place a hand on your chest and locate a feeling that's real and warm, gratitude for a person, relief about a small mercy, awe for something ordinary like the texture of an orange or the geometry of a leaf. Let that feeling color your breath as if you were tinting water with ink. Ask one question, what would the next honest action be if I were already the person I'm becoming? Don't hunt for a grand answer, trust the first small nudge. Send that email. Drink the water. Apologize without a clause. Open the book. Walk around the block and look up. That action is a frequency carrier, it tells your system which channel to lock onto for the next hour. Repeat, and the day arranges itself. The most liberating insight is this, you don't have to seize control of outcomes to change them. You refine the signal you are, and outcomes that fit the signal show up because you finally match their mathematics. You can feel it when it happens, the conversation that accelerates without strain, the coincidence that seems scripted, the sense that time is helping. It isn't superstition to notice such moments, it's humility before the hidden order that appears when we stop fighting our own noise. Wave meets wave, and the exchange costs almost nothing. Imagine your life as a constellation of patterns vibrating together, body, mind, relationships, craft, environment. Each day you tune one string at a time. Some mornings the note holds, some afternoons it slips and you begin again. Over months the instrument stabilizes. You still face storms, but you hum through them with less distortion. People will ask why the right chances keep coming to you. Smile. They aren't coming to you. You're meeting them in the only place they can be met, the frequency where you both already belong. There's a second layer to resonance that most people overlook: impedance. In circuits, impedance is the resistance a signal meets as it flows through a medium. In life, it's the friction between who you're being and what you're attempting to carry. You can aim for a bigger outcome, but if your daily conduct can't conduct that level of current, the signal distorts: procrastination, self-sabotage, scattered attention. Reduce impedance and the same intention travels farther with less heat. Sleep enough to restore synaptic sensitivity. Hydrate to thin the inner electrolyte of your day. Clear one tolerated mess that steals tiny units of willpower each time you see it. When you lower impedance across small domains, your larger signal stops burning out at the edges. Another overlooked lever is phase coherence across your inner subsystems. Your body isn't one voice, it's a choir of oscillators: cardiac cycles, breathing cycles, brain rhythms, hormonal pulses, the slow tides of circadian and ultradian clocks. When these sing in phase, subjective effort falls and access to memory, language, and creativity rises. Practical entry points are surprisingly simple: anchor your wake time, expose your eyes to natural morning light, compress stimulants into a smaller window, and time focused work with the natural 90-minute ultradian wave. You're not forcing performance, you're stacking resonances so the same hour yields more signal and less noise. Resonance also governs identity change. The self isn't a statue, it's the average waveform of your repeated choices. You don't become someone new by arguing with your old pattern, you change the feed you are broadcasting and let the old pattern fall out of sync. Start with microscripts. Replace "I'm overwhelmed" with "I'm prioritizing." Replace "I have to" with "I choose to." Language is not decoration. Each phrase is a tuning input that sets expectancy, muscle tone, and the timing of your next move. Hold the new script long enough and people begin treating you as the version of you that lives at that frequency. Your environment mirrors it back, and the mirror becomes training. Think about money through the same lens. Scarcity isn't just a number, it's a tempo of decisions: late fees, rushed buys, unexplored alternatives, avoidance of uncomfortable calls. Abundance, before it shows up on a spreadsheet, lives as unhurried comparisons, clean asks, and the courage to renegotiate terms that no longer fit. When your financial behavior resonates with stewardship rather than survival, opportunities notice. A client who once bargained you down returns with respect because you modeled respect. A collaborator appears precisely when you finally priced your work to match its value. The math catches up to the music. Healing, too, is a resonance event. Cells communicate through electrochemical patterns, fascia transmits mechanical waves, the immune system listens for rhythm versus randomness. There's a reason gentle oscillatory inputs, walking, breathing, humming, swaying, soothe states that drugs sometimes can't touch. They don't add something, they remind the system of a coherent beat it can entrain to. Add attention and intention, place awareness on an area that feels armored, breathe until the armor warms and softens, visualize microglides between tissues, invite blood and lymph to move. You're not commanding the body, you're providing a metronome gentle enough for it to trust. Trust is the missing frequency in many protocols. Even your digital life participates. Every notification is a foreign oscillator seeking to colonize your rhythm. If you accept them all, you become a chorus of other people's urgencies. If you batch them and carve device-free spans, your nervous system rediscovers its base frequency. From that base, you choose which signals to couple with, one message that matters over 20 pings that don't. Over weeks, this looks like better focus, but under the hood it's phase sovereignty. When fear arises, and it will, treat it as a detuning rather than a verdict. Fear is often a misaligned prediction. Your system expects shock because that's what similar situations delivered before. Pause, retime your breath, ground your feet, and give your body new data in the same context. A calm inhale where panic used to live, a measured sentence where silence used to freeze you, a curious question where defensiveness used to bite. You're teaching your instrument to hold pitch under load. The next time the context appears, resonance favors the newer map. Purpose clarifies as amplitude, not as volume. You don't need to shout your mission, you need to carry it steadily across distance. Amplitude grows when you stop scattering energy across roles that don't fit. Audit your week for mismatched frequencies, obligations that always leave you buzzing or flat, rooms that compress your tone, habits that spike and crash. Replace one with a practice that leaves you clearer than it found you. Make the replacement small enough to succeed daily and significant enough to feel. 10 minutes of learning before you check messages. A walk after lunch without your phone. A promise kept to yourself at the same time each evening. The signal amplifies because the medium gets cleaner. Synchronicity then stops feeling mystical and starts feeling statistical. When your pattern is stable, the probability that you'll intersect with complementary patterns rises. You overhear a line in a cafe that solves your problem because your attention is tuned to hear it. You meet a mentor because you finally attend the event your older self kept postponing. You notice an email you would have archived unread because your state carries curiosity instead of fatigue. The world didn't change its secrets for you, you changed the aperture through which you receive them. Practice holding two truths at once: you are not the sole author of outcomes, and your resonance is not trivial. Between those truths is freedom. You can stop white-knuckling what you can't control, and you can stop pretending your signal doesn't matter. It matters enough to change what enters your field and how it behaves when it arrives. That is agency without strain. End your day with a simple realignment ritual. Write down one moment you moved in dissonance and one you moved in harmony. Notice the precursors: what you ate, how you slept, who you spoke to, what you told yourself before the moment unfolded. Tag the conditions, not the character. Then prime tomorrow's waveform with one sentence in the present tense that you can inhabit: I create with calm precision. I ask with clean timing. I close my loops. Place the sentence where you'll meet it at dawn. Let morning light tune your eyes, breath tune your heart, attention tune your mind. Step into the day like a musician who has already checked their instrument. You won't need to chase. You'll be in time, and being in time is how you meet the life that was always vibrating beside you, waiting for you to hum the same note. There's a quiet law beneath all the others: systems conserve effort when they can. Your life obeys it, too. When you carry tension like armor, every interaction costs extra current. When you soften without collapsing, signal travels with ease. The difference is subtle: millimeters in posture, a few beats per minute in heart rate variability, a shift from mouth breathing to nasal. Those small deltas cascade. People read you before they hear you. Rooms either stiffen around you or open. The email you write from contraction uses defensive grammar, the email from coherence uses verbs that move. One is noise disguised as urgency, the other is clarity delivered on time. Train this deliberately with tempo drills. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Pick one task that you usually rush: washing a dish, tying a shoelace, arranging your desk. Do it at half speed while keeping the quality high. Notice the reflex to hurry. Breathe through it without negotiation. You're rewiring the association between speed and safety. Then choose one task to do at 2/3 speed: typing a paragraph, packing your bag, making tea. Maintain focus as tempo increases. Finally, return to ordinary speed and feel the residue of steadiness under the surface. You didn't waste time, you calibrated your nervous system to carry precision across tempos, so your signal stays intact even when the world accelerates. Use orientation cues to tame ambiguity. When the mind lacks coordinates, it invents fear to keep you alert. Give it coordinates. Before a challenging call, name 3 truths out loud: the purpose of the call in one sentence, the outcome you can control, the boundary you won't cross. Then add one sensory anchor. Notice the weight of your feet, the temperature on your cheeks, the shape of the room's silence. You just pinned your internal wave to reality's grid. In that alignment, words choose themselves and you spend less energy guessing who you should be. Identity upgrades require rehearsal at the level of micro-choices. Decide the time you're going to bed as if it were a promise to a client. Choose the first words you see in the morning, paper, not phone, because those words set the day's carrier frequency. Script 3 phrases you'll use in hard conversations. Help me understand your reasoning, let me reflect and return by noon, here's the constraint I'm working with. Muscle memory isn't only for athletes, it's for self-respect. When tension spikes, the phrases surface on their own, rescuing you from old reflex arcs. Create a resonance-rich workspace by stripping out crosstalk. Sound, light, and clutter are oscillators. If you can, face a wall rather than a corridor, reduce visual motion in the periphery, keep one object in your field that signals the mode you're in, a pen when writing, a metronome when practicing, a stone when thinking. Batch deep work at the same hour for 2 weeks so your brain anticipates the state before you sit down. Consistency becomes a tuning fork. After a few cycles, the state greets you instead of you hunting it. When you feel stuck, change domains but preserve rhythm. If language won't move, walk with a question for 12 minutes and keep your cadence even. If numbers blur, sketch the problem with a pencil without lifting your hand from the page. If emotions flood, hum on a single note until breath and voice meet. The mind honors continuity of rhythm. It will often give you the answer once it trusts you won't abandon tempo at the first hint of discomfort. Consider the physics of saying no. A clean no is not aggression, it's an impedance match. When a request arrives at a frequency that would deform your system, the no prevents energy loss on both sides. Practice form, appreciation first, clarity second, offer third if appropriate. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm committed elsewhere and can't take this on. Here are 2 resources that might help. You preserve coherence and future trust because your wave remains predictable. Predictability is a gift in chaotic fields. Curate your informational diet like you tune an instrument. Inputs have spectral qualities, some sharpen discernment, some smear it. Replace outrage scrolls with longer-form pieces that reward attention. Learn to stop reading the moment you feel your breath lift into your chest. That's a sign the content is hijacking your rhythm rather than enriching it. 1 deeply understood concept per day beats 100 shallow takes. Depth stores as structure. Structure is portable across problems. When you need to expand amplitude, presenting, negotiating, leading, think in terms of coupled fields, not performance. Extend attention to the edges of the room, include the person in the last chair, breathe in a way that would keep a candle flame steady 2 feet away. Speak from the exhale. Pause as if silence were part of the message, not a gap to fear. Watch how faces align to your pacing, watch how your own mind clears because you trusted the space to carry your words. Authority, in its healthiest form, is coherence felt by others. Repair after rupture with rhythm before logic. When conflict spikes, both systems are out of tune, data won't land. First, regulate, slower breath, lower voice, simpler sentences. Then reflect their position back until they say, that's right, not, you're right. That phrase marks phase alignment. Only then propose options. You aren't conceding, you're re-establishing a shared beat so new information has a medium to travel through. If grief visits, treat it as a powerful, low-frequency wave that deserves a container. Don't rush to brighten it, broaden around it. Walk the same path at the same time each day, let the landscape hold the parts words can't. Write 1-page daily address to the person or the loss without editing a single line. Keep one object that anchors memory and touch it when the wave rises. Over weeks the amplitude eases, not because you forgot, but because your system learned to carry the note without breaking. This, too, is resonance, living with a tone until it integrates into the chord of your life. Aim for a state that combines warmth and precision. Warmth without precision becomes sentimentality, precision without warmth becomes sterility. Together they create trust. You cultivate warmth by noticing others' efforts before outcomes and by letting your eyes soften when you greet them. You cultivate precision by naming constraints, timestamps, and next actions with crisp language. The world responds to that duet because it's rare and nourishing. Rehearse your future at resolution higher than affirmation. See the scene, yes, but also feel the microphysics, the texture of the table where you sign the contract, the weight of the pen, the micro-relief in your shoulders, the smell of the room, the cadence of your thanks. Then reverse engineer one present action that shares those physics. Use a good pen to sign a small promise to yourself today, sit with the same posture, breathe the same cadence while doing a modest version of the work. You're building bridges of familiarity so your nervous system recognizes the destination when it arrives and doesn't flinch. Let your evenings close loops. Unfinished tasks radiate a hum that disturbs sleep. List them, mark the one you will definitely complete tomorrow, and park the rest in a trusted system. Tell your mind aloud, you don't need to hold these overnight. Dim screens early, let darkness retune melatonin. Treat sleep as the nightly masterclass in resonance where memory consolidates and the immune system rehearses calm. Waking from that foundation, you meet the day already in phase rather than scrambling to find it. In the end, resonance is a choice repeated until it becomes character. You choose which signals to join and which to let pass. You choose breath over hurry, presence over performance, clarity over cleverness. You choose to be the kind of instrument that makes other instruments tune when they're near you. That is influence without strain and magnetism without myth. Keep tending to the wave you are. The world is full of patterns waiting for a partner who can hold pitch. When you do, the right ones don't just find you, they start singing back. Resonance expresses itself through place as much as through practice. Environments have signatures. The acoustic of a library that invites focus, the caffeine buzz of a cafe that primes social thinking, the quiet geometry of a park that loosens insight. You can harvest these signatures on purpose. If you need synthesis, choose a space with long sightlines, distance calms the amygdala. If you need speed, choose a tighter space with clean lines and fewer colors, constraint reduces decision branches. Rearrange a single element on your desk each morning to signal mode shift to your nervous system. You're not fussing with decor, you're engineering a field. Ethics is resonance at the level of consequence. Integrity keeps phase with reality. When you tell the truth, your present and your past stop arguing. The energy you would spend on hiding becomes fuel for building. When you keep promises, other systems predict your waveform and send opportunities that require reliability. When you take responsibility without taking blame, you preserve coherence while upgrading models. The world is noisy enough, be a signal others can lock onto without fear. Creativity loves structured drift. Give your mind a corridor to wander, a constraint, a question, a time box. Set a timer for 13 minutes and write one bad idea per minute on the same theme. The timer becomes a beat, the beat silences the inner critic because there's no time for perfection. Half of what you make will be chaff, a few grains will gleam because they share phase with something you care about. Expand those. Oscillate between divergence and convergence, wide, then narrow, like breathing. This alternating current keeps momentum without fatigue. Performance in the body is a study in clean coupling. A runner who locks breath to stride avoids side stitches, a lifter who aligns breath with the sticking point transmits force smoothly through joints, a dancer who softens distal tension lets power pass from floor to fingertips without leaks. Translate this to mental performance, pair breath holds with problem holds. Exhale, pause, and let the problem hang in that quiet. The answer often arrives on the following inhale as if your system needed a beat of stillness to integrate the pieces. Learning is resonance across scales. Concepts are not islands, they're archipelagos connected by underwater ridges. Spaced repetition isn't magic, it's timed re-excitation of the same network before it decays, strengthening pathways until recall is effortless. Teach what you just learned within an hour. The act of explaining forces coherence. Draw one diagram per topic. Images compress complexity into shapes the brain can reconstitute quickly. Interleave subjects so your mind learns to switch frequencies without losing phase. Over weeks this looks like breadth without confusion because the underlying rhythm holds. Noise isn't the enemy if you shape it. In physics there's stochastic resonance. Adding the right amount of noise to a weak signal can make it detectable. In life, a little uncertainty can make latent abilities emerge. Take on a project slightly above your current capacity and keep supports nearby, a checklist, a mentor text, a 5-minute rule to start. The mild chaos shakes awake dormant circuits. You find timing you didn't know you had. Too much chaos fractures, too little stagnates. Tune the amplitude. Language fine-tunes fields. Speak in verbs that carry motion. Replace "I hope this works" with "I'm testing this pathway." Replace "I'm stuck" with "I'm mapping constraints." Replace "they never respond" with "I'll escalate at 2 specific times." Phrases like these compress ambiguity. People feel your line and can join it. In writing, cut qualifiers that dampen resonance. Just, maybe, sort of. Keep nuance, lose flinch. Your sentences become rails, ideas travel farther with less friction. Rituals are temporal infrastructure. Anchor the day with 3 bells: arrival, renewal, closure. Arrival could be breath plus a single sentence that names intent. Renewal lands at your ultradian trough: stand up, water, daylight, a minute of sway to refresh vestibular rhythm. Closure is a brief audit: what moved, what blocked, what next concrete step, scheduled. You are teaching time to support you rather than erode you. Consistency beats intensity because resonance favors stable carriers. Setbacks are detuning events, not identity verdicts. When something fails, capture the waveform, not the wound. What precursors preceded the drop? Sleep, interruptions, unclear ask, scope creep, unexpressed boundary. Convert each into a small protocol. If scope creeps, institute a 1-sentence change request. If interruptions spike, implement a visible, on, offline, token at your station. If sleep slipped, move stimulation earlier. The goal isn't self-blame, it's architectural learning. You rebuild the bridge at the resonance frequency that collapsed it, stronger this time. Patience is not waiting, it's unforced timing. Seeds sprout at the cadence of their biology, not your calendar. Push too soon and you rip the shoot, delay too long and you miss the window. Train temporal sensitivity by noticing micro-readiness in conversations, the slight forward lean, the exhale, the eyes widening, then make your ask. Notice micro-resistance, the glance away, the shoulder lift, then pause or ask a question instead of dumping more content. You're tuning to human time constants. Collective fields magnify what individuals start. In teams, create a shared metronome, fixed check-in durations, rotating facilitators, a 2-sentence update constraint, visible blockers. Publish a definition of done with examples so completion has a waveform everyone can feel. Hold a no-interruption rule for the first 5 minutes of ideation. The result isn't rigidity, it's predictable rhythm that frees cognitive bandwidth for substance. Psychological safety is coherence felt as permission to contribute without penalty. Service clarifies frequency. When you orient your skills toward reducing suffering or increasing capability in others, ego noise drops and attention sharpens. Paradoxically, this makes you more magnetic because people feel usefulness without grasping. Ask daily, whose load can I lighten without depleting myself? Do one small thing that makes the world locally less entropic. The act becomes an attractor, collaborators who share that signature notice and gather. Gratitude functions as a carrier wave. Not as denial of difficulty, but as recognition of signal amidst noise. When you name 3 specifics that worked in a bad day, the taste of tea, a sentence you wrote, a friend's text, you stabilize the channel that can carry solutions. Gratitude is not the goal, it is the medium that makes better data audible. From that base, you can face what's hard without losing pitch. Let failure become compost. Archive artifacts of attempts, drafts, sketches, data, where they can be reactivated. Many breakthroughs are recombinations of prior partials that suddenly fit a new key. Review old work monthly for patterns you missed. The mind notices new symmetries at new frequencies. What you abandoned might be the missing bridge once you've matured the instrument that can cross it. Guard your mornings as if they were a sacred spectrum. The brain wakes with higher plasticity, the first input set the day's filter. Choose creation before consumption, write 8 sentences, draw for 7 minutes, rehearse 1 conversation aloud. You train initiation as default. Later, when the day grows loud, your baseline remains creative, not reactive. This is less about willpower and more about tuned inertia. Expand your time horizon to soften urgency without losing drive. Ask what action today would still matter in 5 years. Often it's foundational, deepening a relationship, learning a tool, strengthening health, finishing a durable piece of work. Let that action anchor the day. The rest can orbit without stealing center. Long horizons stabilize amplitude, you become the person who keeps showing up when others fatigue. Curiosity is a universal adapter. When judgment spikes, curiosity rescues resonance by replacing closure with exploration. Instead of, "This shouldn't be happening," try, "What is this showing me that the plan hid?" Instead of, "They're wrong," try, "What model makes their move rational?" Curiosity lowers defensive frequency so information can enter. Over time, it becomes a trait others trust, and trust is a low-loss medium. As nights close, tuck the day into silence that isn't empty but charged. Dim the room until your eyes must widen. Let the breath slow, count longer on the exhale, feel the moment when body weight settles fully into the bed. Name 1 thing you will let rest without solving and grant it permission to ripen in the dark. The body knows how to rehearse coherence during sleep, meet it halfway by clearing residual hum. Morning will ring clearer. Live as if your presence were a tuning fork. Check pitch often. Adjust without drama. Offer steadiness freely. Withdraw from fields that repeatedly distort you beyond repair. Seek mentors whose frequencies widen yours. Become a mentor who does the same for others. Over months and years, your melody matures, less noise, richer harmonics, stronger carry. The world hears you even when you say little because you've become the kind of signal other signals trust. Treat attention like a beam you can collimate. A diffused beam warms everything and changes nothing, a focused beam cuts steel. Begin by choosing a single governing question for the next block of time and place it somewhere your eyes can't avoid. Let your posture embody the answer in advance, shoulders easy, jaw unhooked, breath wide in the ribs. The body teaches the mind its lines. When impulses to check, switch, or scroll arise, label them as sidebands, not sins. Sidebands are natural, you simply decline to amplify them. Each refusal sharpens the carrier. Within minutes a quiet lock occurs, thoughts line up, sentences arrive shoulder to shoulder, decisions feel frictionless because they share phase. Make friends with thresholds. Every meaningful act begins with a small thermal barrier you must cross, the cold water on your face, the first sentence on a blank page, the first call after a mistake. If you wait for comfort, you'll orbit forever. Train a 2-step, micro-commitment plus immediate motion. Say, just the first sentence, then type it, say, lace the shoes, then stand. Once motion starts, internal viscosity drops and momentum handles the rest. The trick isn't willpower, it's shortening the time between intention and first physical cue so resonance can catch. Synchronize with the future you claim. Pick 1 behavior that is non-negotiable for that version of you, a boundary around sleep, a daily outbound message, a 45-minute craft block, and make it inviolable now. Don't argue with storms, scale amplitude, not frequency. On hard days, do a lighter rep of the same act rather than swapping it for something else. Continuity beats intensity because continuity preserves phase memory. Over weeks, the behavior becomes the metronome around which other improvements entrain. Calibrate your social field. People are waveguides, some carry your signal cleanly, others bend it into static. Spend a little time mapping how you feel after interactions: clearer, heavier, sharper, flattened. Don't moralize, measure. Increase exposure to those who sharpen you and negotiate new terms with those who drain you. State the mode you operate best in: focus sessions, fewer but deeper exchanges, direct asks, and invite others onto that channel. Clear terms are a resonance service. They reduce mutual impedance and raise the quality of collaboration. Upgrade your relationship to uncertainty. Most of the world's value hides in frequencies you can't compute in advance. Instead of demanding guarantees, design reversible probes, small bets that teach fast. Write the short pitch and show it to 3 honest people. Ship the slim feature to 10 users who can handle rough edges. Host the tiny workshop and ask for one specific metric of impact. In each case, the environment reflects a waveform back to you. You retune and try again. Feedback becomes a tuning partner rather than a judge. Let nature tune you when you can't tune yourself. Trees carry low-frequency steadiness, water carries smoothing oscillations, mountains teach amplitude without noise. Walk until your breath and the landscape agree. Let vision lift to the horizon to quiet the startle reflex. Touch bark, stone, or soil to remind the nervous system it belongs to larger cycles than your inbox. Bring a problem with you and leave with an instruction, not a paragraph: call, cancel, continue, combine. The clarity seems mystical until you realize you stepped into a cleaner field and borrowed its order. Refine how you ask. A vague request produces decoherence, a precise one invites phase lock. Replace, "Do you have time to chat?" with, "Could we spend 12 minutes this Thursday between 14 to 1600 hours on X? I'll send a 3-bullet brief." Replace "thoughts" with, "From these 2 options, which has fewer failure modes for week 1. People resonate with clarity because it lowers cognitive load. When you ask well, you hear well, and hearing well compounds into better timing later. Guard the language you use about difficulty. "This is impossible" collapses the waveform before it's tested. "This is currently beyond my model" keeps the pattern open. Then deliberately expand the model, define the friction with numbers, identify the smallest lever you control, pre-commit the time window you can absorb a miss, and pick a single metric the next attempt should alter. Progress is phase refinement made visible. Work with the physics of habit extinction. Old patterns don't vanish just because you name them, they decay when starved and replaced. Create an if-then circuit for your stickiest loop. If I reach for my phone in bed, then I put it face down and breathe 5 slow cycles while touching the headboard. If I start doom scrolling, then I stand and drink a glass of water before choosing a long-form article. You aren't policing yourself, you're substituting rhythms that preserve attention. In time, the urge arrives softer and leaves faster. Remember that sound judgment is tempo-aware. Some decisions rot if left too long, others sweeten. Tag choices as perishable or ripening. Perishable, reply to the opportunity while enthusiasm is high, even if imperfect. Ripening, let the draft sit overnight, return with colder eyes, cut what felt clever and keep what feels inevitable. You're matching decision tempo to the decay curve of clarity. Practice precision generosity. Help in a way that amplifies autonomy, not dependence. Share templates, questions, and checklists that others can reuse without you. Offer a 5-minute loom with the exact keystrokes you used. Give feedback structured as keep, change, try. You'll become a node people trust because your support travels far with little loss. That trust returns as clean opportunities that suit your frequency. Engineer boredom on purpose. Constant stimulation is detuning disguised as entertainment. Sit somewhere without your phone for 10 minutes and let your mind scratch. On the other side of the itch lives ideation your feed keeps drowning. Carry a pocket notebook, catch fragments before they evaporate. The best ideas often arrive unannounced when your inner noise floor finally drops. Convert criticism into calibration. When feedback lands hard, assume, just for a moment, that there is a 10% signal inside the sting. Extract it. Ask one follow-up that would make the insight actionable. Where in the draft did you feel lost first? Which metric would convince you were on track? If there's no signal, you'll know soon. If there is, you just shaved months off your learning curve because you tuned to an external reference you usually avoid. Return to breath when you forget every other tool. Inhale gently through the nose for 5, exhale for 7, and repeat until you feel the exhale become heavier than the inhale. That heaviness is parasympathetic entry, cognition clears, vision widens, and the next step appears with less friction. Stack a simple phrase on the exhale, slow is smooth, and let your muscles mirror it. You aren't escaping the moment, you're restoring the channel that lets skill pass. Let endings be clean. Cluttered endings echo as noise. When you close a project, write a one-page postmortem, what repeated, what surprised, what you'd do differently. Archive assets where future you can find them. Send a final, generous note to collaborators naming what you appreciated. Close your release's trapped amplitude, your system stops leaking energy into half-finished loops and reclaims it for what's next. Orient by North Stars, not weather. North Stars are principles that don't wobble with moods, build what endures, tell the truth promptly, make fewer promises and keep them, choose depth over spectacle, leave people better than you found them. When storms hit, you don't negotiate these, you adjust sails, not the destination. This steadiness reads as confidence from the outside and feels like peace from the inside. Carry a bias for beginnings. Most breakthroughs hide inside the first awkward 5 minutes, the shaky greeting, the messy sketch, the unpolished outreach. Start ugly and iterate beautifully. Beauty is often coherence arriving after motion has begun. The world rewards those who can tolerate their own early noise long enough to arrive at a clear tone. If you need a single practice to weave all of this together, make it this: decide who you're becoming, and then measure days by how much you match that frequency, not by how much you performed for the old one. Use tiny proofs: how you breathed during a hard email, how you declined a misaligned offer, how you protected an hour for the work that matters, how you thanked someone specifically. These are the molecules of identity change. You stack them until they form a phase-stable self that other opportunities can finally find. Keep listening under the surface. The best signals arrive softly. They sound like a sentence you can't stop repeating, a face that keeps appearing in your mind, a question that makes your chest warm and your shoulders drop. Follow those. They are often the invitations your rational plan forgot to send, the openings to rooms you didn't know existed, the coordinates of a life that fits. When you step through, you'll notice the same feeling again, the unmistakable ease of timing meeting timing. That's resonance doing what it always does when you let it, carrying you farther with less force, until effort feels like music. Treat energy like budgeted attention across multiple bands. High-frequency bands, concepts, strategy, imagination, are brittle when starved. Low-frequency bands, sleep, nutrition, movement, are foundational and forgive little neglect. If your day feels foggy, don't thrash at the top of the stack, restore the carrier at the bottom. Stand in sunlight for a few minutes, drink water, let the diaphragm travel farther, feel the floor with your feet. When the baseband steadies, higher signals snap back into focus as if a hidden tuner finally locked. Design recovery as deliberately as you design exertion. Systems don't grow while pushing, they grow while integrating the push. Close each intense block with an off-ramp, a single exhale through pursed lips, shoulders dropping one notch, eyes tracing a slow square, up, right, down, left. Mark the scene change, teach your nervous system that intensity has punctuation. Without it, your days blur into a smear of half-closed loops and your nights carry leftover static you call insomnia. Rhythm, not heroics, builds amplitude you can sustain. Reframe willpower as friction management. You don't lack discipline if your environment is a carnival of lures. Reduce decision points by staging your future self-success. Lay out the book on the chair where you'll sit, place the running shoes in the doorway so you have to step over them, preload the writing document with a single ugly sentence you're itching to fix. The smaller the initial slope, the easier resonance catches. Success then looks like flow, but it's simply phase alignment arranged in advance. Learn to listen beneath language. People reveal their wave with timing, not just content, the pause before a sensitive topic, the speed jump when they touch an insecurity, the micro-laugh that hides a boundary. Reflect the rhythm back, slow when they rush, breathe when they hold, ask one more question when they dodge. This isn't manipulation, it's compassionate tuning. In that safety, truths surface that were impossible at higher noise. Decisions made from that field last longer because they were forged at a frequency that can carry weight. Make your craft a living laboratory. Track one variable for a week: writing time, number of outbound asks, rehearsal minutes, sketch count, lines of code that ship. Don't moralize the number, model its effect. What downstream results moved? Where did bottlenecks appear? Then change a single lever: earlier start, tighter window, public scoreboard, a partner who checks in, and run another week. You become your own signal engineer, discovering the particular stack that lets your work sing. General advice bows to the math of your body and context. Let uncertainty become a companion, not a captor. Anxiety spikes when your prediction engine outruns your capacity to act. Bring them into phase by shrinking the horizon until action is possible. Name the next reversible step, timebox it, and run. After the step, expand the horizon one notch and repeat. You're not lowering ambition, you're matching problem size to signal stability. Over time, this cadence produces a quiet confidence. You trust yourself to move even when the map is fog. Transmute comparison into calibration. Envy is information with thorns. It points to a frequency you value but haven't claimed. Instead of circling their highlight reel, extract one behavior you respect and adopt it in a form that fits your life. Their weekly newsletter cadence becomes your Tuesday one-pager, their public demos become your monthly office hour, their meticulous references become your two-sentence citations. You can admire their tone without abandoning your voice. The field is wide enough for both. When friction persists, look for hidden couplers, beliefs that bind dissonant parts together. If I succeed, I'll be alone. If I slow down, I'll be forgotten. These are not facts, they're phase-locked stories aging out. Test them with micro-experiments. Succeed quietly and invite one friend into the win. Slow down for one afternoon and track who noticed, usually no one who matters. New evidence loosens the coupler, the system discovers it can carry more joy without exile and more rest without erasure. Treat anger as a signal of boundary discovery. Anger often marks a mismatch between what you promised and what you're permitting. Before you discharge it outward, translate it into architecture, a clearer scope statement, a price that includes the real cost, no, you will deliver at the first red flag next time. Then move the body, walk hard, push the floor, wring the towel, so the chemistry can leave. Clarity without movement calcifies, movement without clarity repeats the loop. Do both and the pattern dissolves. Practice elegant endings in conversations as well as projects. Signal closure with a summarizing sentence and a small next step stamped with a when. We aligned on X and will test Y. I'll send a one-paragraph brief by 1500 hours tomorrow. People experience this as care. The field stays clean, momentum carries into the next meeting without relitigating old ground. Coherence compounds not because you're brilliant, but because you waste almost nothing resynchronizing. Let play be your stealth teacher. Play is practice without the audit. It lowers evaluation noise so learning accelerates. 10 minutes of improvisation with your instrument, a sketch with your non-dominant hand, a coding kata you'll never ship. These look frivolous to the productivity mind and essential to the resonance mind. They expand range, reveal blind spots gently, and return you to the craft with more elasticity. Elastic signals survive shocks. Anchor identity to verbs, not nouns. Nouns get defended, verbs keep moving. Writer becomes brittle when you don't publish for a month. I write sentences most mornings, survives any season. Pick verbs that you can enact today regardless of scale: learn, build, ask, refine, serve. Verbs keep you in phase with action, nouns tempt you into performance. Over years, the verbs pour themselves into a noun others will gladly grant you. You didn't seize the title, the field named you because your wave was consistent. Hold paradox kindly. You can love where you are and want more. You can be grateful and still hungry. You can move slowly and accomplish a lot. Paradox is not contradiction, it's harmonic richness. Systems with only one note fatigue listeners and collapse under stress. Allowing complexity increases resilience because the signal has multiple paths to carry meaning when one is blocked. This is the grown version of resonance, less brittle certainty, more layered strength. If you need a closing practice that quietly upgrades everything, try this nightly recalibration. Write 3 brief lines: 1 truth you faced, 1 boundary you honored, 1 courage you'll attempt tomorrow. Read them aloud. Feel the body's response. Sleep inside that geometry. Overnight, your system rehearses being the person who lives those lines. Morning greets you already a few degrees closer to the frequency you chose. Keep repeating until the new tone is simply how you hum when nobody is listening. Attention maps reality through selection, not force. What you spotlight becomes furnished with detail, while the rest of the room dims into abstraction. This isn't mystical. Neurons that fire together wire together, and what you repeatedly notice recruits more circuitry, grows capillaries, thickens myelin, and lowers the energy required to perceive that category again. Over weeks this creates a perceptual bias that feels like destiny. Interrupt the loop by practicing deliberate novelty. Walk a street you've never taken, switch the hand you use to brush your teeth, read 1 page in a field you don't need. Novelty jolts stale prediction models and forces the brain to attend with beginner's precision. Beginners resonate fast because they're not imprisoned by a stale map. Refuse the false binary between intuition and analysis. Intuition is analysis that learned rhythm, compressed pattern recognition delivered at human speed. Train it by exposing yourself to many small cycles with feedback. Sketch daily and critique the sketch the same day. Make tiny trades and log the reasons before and after. Record short voice notes when your gut leans, then revisit a week later to score accuracy. You aren't worshipping a hunch, you're calibrating a sensor so it speaks clearly under pressure. When intuition and data agree, proceed. When they diverge, design a probe that's cheap to run and expensive in learning. Treat time blocks like resonant cavities. A 15-minute window with clean edges is more generous than a loose hour riddled with interruptions. Close doors literally and metaphorically. Put 1 tab on stage and the others in the wings. Name exactly what "done" means for this interval: 5 bullet points, 1 email sent, 30 lines refactored. Completion is the tone that tells the nervous system, you can trust me. Trust compounds into momentum. Momentum feels like grace. Phrase your inner questions as invitations, not interrogations. What's wrong with me? Collapses options into shame. What signal am I missing? Widens the field and enlists curiosity. Curiosity is the solvent of stuckness. Aim it inward with the same kindness you use on a friend who's struggling. The system learns that self-inquiry is safe, and safe systems reveal truth faster. Engineer micro-rituals at transition points, threshold breaths before opening your inbox, one line of gratitude before a meal, 3 shoulder rolls before you speak in a room. Tiny acts place flags in time. We're here, this matters. Without flags, days smear. With flags, even ordinary minutes carry tone. Meaning doesn't always require magnitude, it requires music. When you plan in constraints, not fantasies. Decide what you won't do this cycle as explicitly as what you will. Constrain scope, constrain channels, constrain meetings to the minimum number of participants who can truly move the problem. Constraints don't crush creativity, they shape it the way a violin's body shapes a string's vibration. The sound is better because the space is specific. Let your language to yourself borrow from craft, not courtroom. Replace verdicts with versions. Not, I failed, but version 1 didn't carry under load, version 2 will add ribs. This keeps identity unpunished and problem-solving alive. The nervous system stays collaborative rather than defensive. Collaboration with yourself is the root of durable change. When the impulse to please others hijacks your timing, remember, harmony without self-voice isn't harmony, it's silence with a smile. Say fewer yes with higher integrity. A clean, early no is a gift, it frees both sides to find correct partners. If you struggle to say it aloud, write it first, rehearse it once, let your breath carry the words, and deliver it before the moment decays. Truth delivered on time saves everyone from ornate fictions later. Reclaim the micro-aesthetics of your day. Beauty is coherence felt through the senses, an aligned desk, a balanced plate, a sentence that lands on its feet. When you let small beauty in, your nervous system stops bracing and starts composing. Composition is the opposite of chaos. It's not expensive, it's attentive. Think in arcs, not spikes. Spikes feel heroic, late-night sprints, last-minute rescues, but arcs change lives. An arc is a repeating curve that accumulates, 40 quiet minutes of deep work at the same hour, for honest outbound messages every weekday, a weekly long walk where you audit your direction without a device. Arcs tame variance. Tamed variance unlocks creative risk because your base remains stable even when you experiment at the edges. Learn the geometry of boundaries in your body. A good boundary feels like a firm, warm line, not a fence with barbed wire. You can practice it somatically, stand tall, soften your eyes, breathe low, say no at a comfortable volume, and keep your shoulders dropped. The body cues the voice cues the psyche. When the line is warm, most people accept it, when it's cold or jagged, they test it. You're not pushing anyone away, you're inviting only what fits to stay. Use subtraction as a growth strategy. Remove one commitment that steals clarity. Delete one app that converts boredom into noise. Retire one story that keeps you small. The space you free becomes the chamber where a better tone can form. Addition will tempt you because it flatters ambition, subtraction feeds amplitude. If you mentor others, mentor their rhythm first. Help them find a sustainable cadence before you load them with goals. Teach them the 2 or 3 practices that keep their signal clean, closing loops, speaking in precise asks, protecting a daily craft block. A mentee with rhythm will make their own leaps, a mentee with only ambition will burn bright and brief. Rhythm is the inheritance that compounds. Rehearse courage in trivial stakes so it's available in real ones. Ask a tiny question in a meeting where you'd usually stay silent. State a preference about lunch. Send a 2-sentence outreach to someone you admire. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the familiar sensation of moving while slightly off balance and discovering you won't fall. Each rep lengthens the stride you can take when it matters. When you are truly tired, let the day be good enough. Excellence degenerates into compulsion when you refuse seasonal limits. Respect your cycle. Close earlier. Read one clean page. Stretch in the doorway. Put the device outside the room. Tell tomorrow what you will do first and then keep that promise. Recovery is the backstage that makes tomorrow's performance look effortless. Keep a ledger of quiet wins. Not the dramatic launch, but the moment you paused instead of reacting, the message you sent with clarity, the 10-line function you wrote that removed 100 lines elsewhere, the walk you took instead of another caffeinated hour. Quiet wins are the atoms of identity. Stack enough and the molecule forms, the person who moves with precision and warmth, whose presence settles rooms, whose timing makes hard things feel possible. And when doubt returns as it always does, remember the simplest proof: set a small resonance and watch reality couple to it. Breathe slower and see how the meeting calms. Ask one exact question and watch the fog lift. Take one aligned action and watch the next step reveal itself. This is not superstition, it is the physics of being human conducted with care. Keep tuning. Keep noticing. Keep choosing the signal you can carry. The world is already vibrating with the possibilities that match it. Your job is to hum clearly enough that they can hear you,